All right, let's get started then. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today called Empowering Accounting Educators, Harnessing AI for Enhanced Teaching and Learning. My name is Dave Ward. I'm the Sales and Business Development Director for AME Learning, and I'm joined today by Joy Rizzo, who's our Sales and Marketing Specialist, as well as by Veronica Visinton, who is our CEO, and by David Wood, who I'll introduce in just a minute. David will be answering your questions during his presentation, so please type your questions in chat, and I'll answer some of those questions as he goes along. Questions he doesn't get to, we'll aim to cover at the end of his presentation. One other thing to mention, this webinar is being recorded, so you don't need to take notes. We'll be sending you the link to the recording following this session. So before we begin, I just want to briefly introduce AME Learning for those of you who don't know us. For over 20 years, AME Learning has been making accounting education more accessible to students. Our proven AME Learning system is an award-winning instructional approach that makes the teaching and learning of accounting easier. In fact, AME actually stands for Accounting Made Easy. This is our focus. To this end, we provide excellent instructor and student support, lots of instructor and student resources, automated grading, and fast course setup that can include LMS integration. You can learn more about us by visiting amelearning.com. So I would now like to introduce David Wood to you. David teaches at Brigham Young University, where he's the Glenn D. Artis Professor of Accounting, and he teaches courses on accounting data analytics and accounting information systems. David has published over 150 articles and is a current or past editor for 5 journals and editorial board member for 9. He works with the Ernst & Young, an academic resource center, to develop a curriculum that is free to academics worldwide, which you'll be learning more about from David today. David is passionate about understanding new technologies and implementing them in the curriculum at BYU. It's great to have you with us today, David. I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you so much, Dave. It was a little confusing in the meeting getting started. There's 3 Davids in the room. And so we're like, David, do this, David, do that, David, do this. And I'm just hoping someone else knows what to say in the presentation. It is wonderful to be here with all of you. Notice some friends in the room and hopefully future friends too. I do want this to be as interactive as possible. So as I put up my slides, please put in whatever you can into the chat. A quick hello or whatever. You can disagree with me, you can add an insight, but would love to have as many people chatting and communicating as possible. I'm going to share some fun stuff, but I want to start with just a quiz just to see where people are at so I know kind of what to ask. So let's pull up quiz question number 1. All I want to know is, have you registered for the EYARC website? While you're doing that quiz, what we're going to just say, EYARC is a nonprofit kind of spin-off of EY. So EY gives money to the EY Foundation. The foundation says they want to invest in things that are meaningful, so they give out to humanitarian efforts, but a big part is to education. They spent over $12 million, and they pay people like me to generate content they give out to free. So everything I show you on here is free for institutes of higher education that are nonprofit. So I give you just 5 more seconds to answer that question as you're coming in, and then we'll see the results. And put in the chat, I want to see where's everybody from. So we'll just get you started. So if I can see if the chat's working. Because I'm currently not seeing it working yet. Okay, there we go. I got from one of the panelists is Toronto. All right, do you want to close, David, that poll, and we'll see the results? All right. Okay, so looks like a few people are, a few people aren't. You're going to need to register for this to do any of the stuff I'm showing. So I'm going to start with that. Let me give you a quick overview of what Gen AI is. If you haven't seen Gen AI, haven't heard about it, it's the rage. Everybody's doing it. It's really cool, ChatGPT, etc. But I want to go over just briefly what it is. So on the screen, you're going to see this. Oh, how I didn't share my screen. Can you see my screen? Can I get a nod? Yep, I can.
Yes, that's good.
Okay. All right, so what is AI? AI has been around for a long time. AI is basically getting a computer to act like a human. And so traditional AI, which has been around for decades, is something like taking and classify images of cats versus dogs based on predefined features. So you give it a picture and you say, is this a cat or is it a dog? In contrast, Gen AI creates entirely unique images of cats or dogs. So if I open up ChatGPT, I can say, make an image of a cat dog. I'm not even going to pick one. I'm going to pick both. Combine them to be cool looking. And so rather than classifying or doing something of prediction, it's actually generating new. That's why it's called generative AI. And we can do something really fun. It's a lot of fun. You'll see a picture come up here. There's a cat dog. Never been done before. And that picture has never been created before in the world. All right. So that's the difference between the two. When we get into traditional AI, we see this all around. So when we have spam email detectors, that's traditional AI. Fraud detection, you get that notified. Did you really spend $500 at Walmart buying gift cards? Click yes, that's AI working there. Product recommendations, here's Netflix, here's the next show you should watch. All of those types of things are traditional AI. In contrast, generative AI is going to make pictures like I just did. It's going to create articles. It's going to compose music, generate code, design new products, those types of activities. All right. And so we go from there. And this is how generative AI works in a very, very simplified word. So you're going to come up, you're going to have a word. So I type in the word the. And generative AI has been trained on billions of different documents, and it's going to come up with a probability of what the next word should be. So there's different words. It could go cat, dog, man, or bird, and it's going to select one of these randomly. Now, ones with higher probability are more likely to be selected. All right, so now we have generate the word, the cat, and it's going to come up with the next one. It doesn't have these words. This is just for showing, but it keeps selecting a word. This is the strength and weakness of generative AI. The strength is it doesn't always do the same thing. It's not deterministic. It's probabilistic. So this could be the sentence, the cat sat on the floor, chair, or table, or something completely ridiculous on the banana, based on probabilities. Now, that's great if you want to be creative. If you want to be an accountant and have everything, like a math equation, that's where we start to have problems. Okay, so there is what Gen AI is. Let me go back to the last line. So traditional AI, we're thinking of words like it's going to recognize, classify, or predict. Generative AI, we get into words like create, innovate, and adapt. So if you think about accounting, traditional AI is all over. We recognize lots of stuff. We classify lots of stuff. We predict lots of stuff. And so AI has been in accounting for quite a while. Generative AI, we're typically not the best at creating, innovating, and adapting, although that's increasingly happening. Now, this whole thing is about teaching. So what I just showed you was all created by generative AI. This is called Claude. It's competitive to ChatGPT. I'll show you the prompt of what I did. So I came in and said, make a widget that explains what generative AI is and how it is different than regular AI. Step people through the process. And it created this code. It wrote all of this code automatically just from that prompt. When I previewed, it gave me an error. It said, oh, it didn't work. So I said, there's a little button that said, fix it. It wrote the prompt for me to fix it. And I had my first version of what I just showed you. And it was pretty good, except I didn't really like this screen on generative AI. And so I said, expand the section on how Gen AI works and give a more comprehensive explanation. And so voila, it now worked. And it's poof, I have this new one. It updated that specific section and it changed it. I still didn't like it, so I told it to do something else. And then I told it to do something else. And so at the end, I ended up with exactly what we had. It programmed the code and it just put it in there. If I want to change this and say, hey, make a lot of Canadian references that are funny, you'll watch, it's going to just take whatever I had previously coded. I just did this as an example that was sarcastic. It will rewrite the code. It's generating new code automatically for me and doing that and creating a widget. Now, notice I don't know how to program in React. I've never programmed in React. And yet I can now be a programmer because of Gen AI. And what's more is I click on the little button down here that says publish, and I just created a widget that I can demonstrate in class. So if I can describe what I want, AI is now good enough to make it. That's what's really cool and transformative about this. So this is going to be my AI one with some Canadian humor in it. We'll see if it comes down. You can see kind of some of the titles and words that are going to be put into that. It takes a second. You have to be a little bit patient, but when we're done, we hope we're not offensive, but we have some good fun humor. I grew up close to Canada, did a lot of vacationing up there, and they are good sports. So what is it? AI, eh? AI is like a Toronto traffic jam, complicated, sometimes frustrating, but somehow it all works out in the end. And it gives me different examples. Notice it even puts in emojis. It got the hockey puck kind of thing, giver back there, eh? And you can go through and immediately change it for whatever classroom dynamic you want. Okay, if I want to change that, if I'm down in Texas, I can put in some Texas humor. If I'm in, football, I can make it football. I can make it violin. I can do whatever I want by just describing it, and it will recreate it immediately. I click publish. I then publish it, and I now have a link that I could use and give to my students. Oh, I didn't copy it. Let me copy that link in. And now I have my Canadian what is AI that I can do in the classroom. So you want practical stuff you can do in the classroom, Claude can do that. ChatGPT does the same thing. The thing I like about Claude is it has this window, this artifact window, where you can see the code and preview the code in real time. So I actually subscribe now to ChatGPT and Claude every month, and I have both open on my desktop, use them all the time. Very practical. In your classrooms, I pull this up in front of my students. Oftentimes when students ask a question, I will put the question in here. And so let me go to ChatGPT. They will ask something like, what are the Rev Rec rules in the USA? And I will say, well, let's put it into ChatGPT. And I'll put the answer up and they're like, well, why do we need to talk to you as a professor? And I said, bingo, this is the future. Why will they call you as a tax professional? Why will they call you as an auditor? The question is this correct? And then I'll have the students who have just asked the question say, is this correct or not? That's the thing you have to be able to do now. And that's what we're training you to do. Not only do you have to be able to use AI, but you have to evaluate outputs and know what's right. That's the value that we're adding as professionals. And so this goes through and gives you all the different things. And I don't know if it's right because I have no clue how to do RevRec, but somebody on the call probably does. Again, feel free to put in any questions as you go or comments. I am monitoring chat as we go along. Okay, so now what I want to do is introduce, that was some pretty cool stuff of just a very quick introduction. If you have a question about it, I'm happy to answer it. Let's take just a quick question to see where you're at. Please put this poll question up. Please select all that apply to you. I have used GenAI in the classroom with students. I have used GenAI to prepare the classroom materials. I've used GenAI to learn and prepare myself to teach. I've assigned students to use GenAI in my class, or I ban GenAI usage for my students. I want to kind of see what the room is. Oh, somebody said, Tom Hall said those are the 5 steps. So those are the 5 steps. It got it right. And it's getting better and better. We're getting rid of hallucinations where it just makes stuff up. There's still a problem. Typically for me, I think it's right about 95% of the time. 98, 99 if you're doing general topics. Okay, let me give you just 10 more seconds to answer that quick question. None apply for poll 2, then don't answer any of them. Just leave them all blank. I just wanted to get an idea. Okay, let's go ahead and close that poll and just kind of see what people are thinking. Okay, about a third have used it in the classroom with students. About half have used it to prepare classroom materials. 65% use it to prepare themselves to teach. They might just ask that RevRec question I just did and say, explain it to me. And you might say something like this, explain it to a completely new person. I know nothing. Or say, explain it simply. Okay, now it's going to do a very quick walkthrough, very, very basic. And I'm saying, no. Kindergartner. Okay, I run a lemonade stand, and it's going to go very, very simple so you can walk your way through this. We created a GenAI for an introductory information systems course, and you have students asking things that simple, like, what is accounting? What is the FASB? What is revenue? And it really helps them learn in a safe way. Now, that's kind of cool, but I came on here to demonstrate some new cool stuff. So what I want to show to you is how we can make AI in the classroom even easier than what I just showed you. About a year ago, EY came to me and said, hey, we'd like to help you be more productive. What can we do? And I said, give me a team of students that will do work for me. And they said, great, how many do you want? And I said, give me 12 for a year. And so they gave me $250,000 to pay students. So I have a team of 12 students that have helped develop the EY Arc experience. We promised to deliver 3 innovative cutting-edge cases to them. I'll show you right now, we've given them 17, and then I'll show you about the other 5 to 10 that we'll have released by the end of the year. So this team, we first got together and we said, we need a learning platform. Where do we host this? We couldn't find anything that would do the stuff we wanted. And so we decided to build all of this on our own. We built an entire learning management platform plus all the content in 7 months with 12 part-time students. If you go to eyarc.site, you can see what we have. on this website, if you scroll down, these are traditional cases that are posted on EY. So for example, if you want a case on Alteryx, auditing, you can find that we have different cases that are, oh, there's a whole bunch of Canada. I didn't know there's a whole bunch of ones related to some Canadian data that we have on that. There's Fairview data, et cetera. If you click on one of these, you can say, click on this different one. You can actually, if you have joined the EY ARC, you click on that button, join the EY ARC, this will take you directly to the files to download. And once you go there, you'll notice there are a whole bunch of files that have the Word files, the PDFs, data sets, videos, all of that stuff. You're allowed to use any of these. You can edit, change, manipulate them any way. EY just asks that you keep the branding so that they get a little bit of thank you for putting the branding out there. Now, that's been out there for years. What we created was the EY ARC experience. So I'm going to click on that and load this up. First, I want to, let me log out. Let me show you the students. So these are the students that have worked with this. We've got computer scientists, information systems, and then mostly accountants, and then one graphic designer. And that's the student team that have put all this together. A couple, graduated out last year when they started. So there's our team. So think about them as we're doing this. You come in and now you log in. Okay, somebody asks, do you want your students to use the paid or unpaid version of ChatGPT? This year, I'm going to require them for the first month to use the paid version. And then I'm going to say, you choose after that. There are just some, I teach AI, so the first 2 weeks are just going to be how to use AI in my class. So they need to use the cutting edge tools for that. All right. Again, put questions in the chat as we go and I'll monitor those. Okay, so when you come in here, once you've created an account as an instructor, you follow those instructions, you'll go back and you'll log in. Once you log in, you're presented with, let me zoom in, a course dashboard. This is just like any other learning management platform. You create a course and then you add materials to it. So I'm going to create a course to show you this, and we're going to say AME example. One thing you have to be careful about is get the student identifier. This is how you're going to get your grades from ours into Canvas or your learning management system. We haven't built connectors yet. You have to use a CSV. So at BYU, this is going to be called the Net ID or student ID, whatever it's called at your institution. I have my start date. I'm going to say this course is going to end in November and describe it. Awesome course on being awesome, or whatever you want the students to see about your course. It creates it. It says, are you sure it was Net ID? Because you can't change that. Everything else you can change. Yep, I'm good. I published it. This course code is what the students are going to need later. I will show you how to use that later. All right, I have my AME example. I come in, and just like any other learning management, I can create assignments, I can see students, and I can see statistics of how well the students did, and I can also export their grades here into a CSV file that you can then upload. I will say everything I'm showing you is free for any institute of higher education. The real cool stuff now is the assignments. So the learning platform, that's pretty basic. You can go up and do the about, walk you through and do all of that stuff if you forget. Lots of instructions there. But I want to show you why we built this is to create content that's unique and different. So if we come in and click Add Assignments, you're going to see here's all of the assignments we currently have. We have stuff on database. We have prompt engineering. We have mini assignments meant for an introductory financial course. These have been tested on 1,000 students at ASU. They loved it. Increased student ratings dramatically. What it's meant to do is show them cool new stuff to draw them into the measure. So we've got stuff like using drones to do inventory counting. They watch some videos. These are all meant to take 15 minutes. Very short, easy assignments. We then have stuff like audit inquiry and some tax stuff. This is why we built the platform. So I'm going to jump in and show you this audit inquiry and then the second audit inquiry part. Audit inquiry or tax inquiry, we have both. That's a really hard thing to teach in class. I got 100 students sitting in front of me, and I want to teach them how to interview somebody. Well, how do I do that? I can't do one-on-ones because I got too many students. And so we're going to use AI in a really cool way behind the scenes. So I'm going to just show you this assignment real quick. We have, stories that they can listen to or read. We try to mix it up with different types of reading and examples. We go through the standards. We then quizzes that they have to answer. This is this view as the professor. So if a student, they would actually see you got it right or you got it wrong, and they can't continue until they answer it correctly. Nothing too fancy there. So blah, blah, blah. I will show you. Man, there's a lot of blah, blah, blah. But we do have videos. This video here is made by Synthesia. Synthesia is a phenomenal product. I will put it in the chat. What this allows you to do is create videos from text. So I write a text and then this avatar speaks it. And so you're going to see her speak. What's really cool then is there's no ums or ers or reformats, and I can actually make a video of myself. If you use the paid version, it will create an avatar of me, and then it'll be my voice talking. So if you ever want to do a video after class, you create it. I just type it in, change the script. Next year, the tax standards change a couple words, click publish. I got a new video. But let me just show you this kind of video to show you what we're doing with the students.
Hello, I'm Mina, and today we're going to discuss the impact of body language and verbal cues during interviews and inquiries. To effectively gather the information and evidence we need, it's crucial to conduct ourselves professionally and build trust with our clients. Poor nonverbal cues can hinder clients' willingness to share important information. Let's begin by looking at some nonverbal cues we want to avoid in inquiries. For these examples, let's introduce Susie, who will be the person being interviewed by the auditor. Nick will take the role of the auditor. Notice how the auditor in this interview is slouching in their chair and has their leg on the table while talking with the client. Poor posture can signal disinterest and disrespect to your client. Having a stern and unfriendly expression on your face can make the client feel uncomfortable and less likely to open up, even if you don't intend to look unfriendly. Constantly swiveling, fidgeting, or not paying attention shows a lack of focus and can be distracting. Sitting too close can invade the client's personal space and make them feel uncomfortable. Lastly, dressing too casually can give the impression that you're not taking the interview seriously, which may cause the client to not take the interview seriously either.
All right, the video is going to continue and go on and explain good things. I love that somebody was unmuted and started laughing a little bit. Every time I've showed that video in front of professionals or students, I get that laughing. You don't get that from a textbook. And so we're trying to make learning just like what AME's whole goal is how do we make learning engaging and interesting and get people to like it? Now, that's all just kind of normal. This isn't the cool part. What we did next is what's cool, is we actually can simulate an interview using AI. So here, what we first have them simulate is these are audit students. We want them to be interviewed by an auditor. So they experience what it's like to have an auditor interview them. And so we come in here and they're to describe who they are, and they click on this chat, and now Phil suddenly is chatting with them. Sure, Phil, how's your day going? And you're going to say, oh, let's not waste time with chit chat. Focus. First question. What exactly do you here at Darrell Bakley? And don't give me a generic answer. Be specific. Wow. I'm a bit offended. I don't really know what I do. I'm new. You don't know what you do? That's unacceptable. You're in a professional setting. It's your responsibility to understand your role. Okay, this is a really mean jerk auditor. And some auditors act like this. Everything that we put into this platform is reviewed by EY professionals. Like that video, we had those joking. They've all seen those behaviors. That's why we put it in. We have auditors who act like this. So they have a terrible experience, and then they come back and they do it again with a good Phil. Now notice, good afternoon. My name's Phil. I'm an external auditor. Do you have a few minutes? Sure. How's your day going? And Phil's going to say, thank you for asking. My focus here is, and it's not perfect, it is AI, so it's not quite human-esque, but let's begin with the first question. Can you describe your main responsibilities? I'm new. Can you please, sorry, I am not sure what I do yet. That's understandable. It often takes a little time. Notice how different the feeling is. So now students can have a very different experience seeing, wow, what's it feel like to be audited by somebody who's a jerk versus somebody who has some manners and some soft skills. Okay, so they go through this, they end the conversation, and then we continue on, and they have a couple more screens where they learn some more stuff. Now let's go back to the next assignment you can assign them, where it says Hearts Guitars. Here, they get to do the same thing, except now they're actually doing an audit. This is the purchase to pay cycle. And we actually describe the internal controls. We have flow charts. We have a whole voucher packet. I'll open this up. There's 120 pages of them with voucher packets. Let me go up to the top where they get to look through for signatures and amounts and make sure everything does all of the stuff they do on auditing. We give them audit work papers that have the specific steps that they have to walk through and the specific tasks they have to do. Now, to keep it fun or not too long, they have to do 30 packets, but 25 are already done. So they're looking at 5 packets. A video walks them through. Now, that would be done in a normal assignment. In an audit, you might have them hand that in. What we do then is in the real world, once you finish those audit work papers, if there's an exception, you actually have to go talk to somebody. So we have them go talk to Sandra. And they open up and have to have the conversation with her and say, hey, what actually happened with this? Why isn't there a signature here? And she'll give an explanation. And then they have to say, do they follow up? And, oh, yeah, we had an email. It's no big deal. Well, can you give me a copy of the email? And she gives them a copy of the email and those sorts of things. So we have now simulated real world what's going on. So we can actually chat with Sandra or we can actually talk with her. So I'll try to, sometimes this doesn't work on Zoom, but I'll see if it can work when I have multiple going on.
Come in. What can I do for you?
Hey, Sandra, my name's David. I'm the external auditor. Do you have a few minutes to chat?
Of course, David. What would you like to discuss?
Could you quickly run me through the purchase to pay process and what your role is in that process?
Certainly. Employees make purchase requests, which get approved by a buying agent who issues a purchase order. Goods are received and inspected, and we match the PO, invoice, and receiving report before creating and signing the voucher packet for payment. My role is to review and approve these documents before payment.
Okay, now we could go on and continue to have the conversation, ask her about the specific deviations we have, and she has explanations, etc. The real cool part is when I click
Certainly.
End.
Employees make purchase
She repeats
requests,
herself, sorry.
which get approved by a buying agent who issues a purchase order. Goods are received and inspected, and we match the PO, invoice, and receiving report before creating and signing the voucher packet for payment. My role is to review and approve these documents before payment.
That's a glitch in the instructor version because it's slightly different. You're just seeing what the students do. But what I really want to highlight is in the students one, what happens on the next screen is they get detailed feedback on their performance. And so it will explain, hey, you were too abrupt. You need to be better prepared. Your questions weren't, structured the right way. And so then they can go back and practice and try it again. So now what we've done is we've simulated a topic that was really hard to teach, and I can now do it individually with each student and give them individualized feedback on their performance. Okay, I noticed a couple questions came in. So Mike Chin, hi, it's good to see you. He said, are all the assignments in the EYARC repository on there? No, they are not. We're only going to put on certain ones on experience that fit the experience. So other ones that you need to interact in different ways, we won't. And we don't plan to fully integrate everything. We're going to mostly build new material for here, integrate where it makes sense. If there's one you think would really make sense, send us an email and we'll see what we can do to get it posted online. All right. Okay, happy to answer any other questions if you put them in the chat. But those are the types of things we're putting into this assignment catalog, is things like that, where we're using AI to educate in new and different ways. So that was basics about an inquiry. I won't jump into tax, but the tax interviews are the same thing. We teach them how to do tax interviews, and then they actually go interview the client. So often in tax classes, you give someone a paragraph with all the information, and then they give an answer. Well, in the real world, you don't often get that paragraph. You have to get that paragraph by talking to somebody. So we give them that extra step where they have to practice saying, tell me, how many kids do you have? What are their ages? Are any of them, are they all your biological children? And so giving them those soft skills that they're going to need to be successful, as well as the serious other skills of knowledge and the typical tax knowledge. The other ones we have on here, we have a database anomalies class for an AIS course that goes through and allows them to learn how to do database anomalies, what they are by interacting with the tables. There's also a game in this one that's really cool. We have prompt engineering where they actually practice prompting, and we pay for all the prompting so they can go in and try it. We give them some feedback on how they're doing on that. I will show you, I mentioned the tax ones. There's a lot of stuff. Let me just show you an introductory case. These are meant to be like 15-minute cases. So I'll just show you case of the missing 4. This is a 15-minute case, again, meant for an intro class or just kind of a high level, how is the accounting relevant in the real world? This one actually talks about the Securities and Exchange Commission and earnings per share. And it shows earnings per share is a number, but it's $1.87, but really they're rounded out, so they're a lot bigger. So what happens to that third digit? And it explains, well, the third digit, you can manipulate it. If there's no manipulation, by random order, we should see the third digit should be all of these different numbers. If people manipulate, you can start to see, wait, here's a Wall Street Journal articles that say there's a lot of manipulation. We don't see very many 4s. We see too many 5s. People are rounding 4 up, which they shouldn't do, or manipulating the earnings so that that number can be changed. And then we show, hey, they actually go to a Tableau dashboard and can play around and answer some questions. And they ask them some very basic questions. The idea is they do this outside of class. And then you come to class and you can say, hey, you know that earnings per share number? Look, it moved the markets this big. Here's a recent article. And you can start talking to them and say, we're going to teach you stuff that's cutting edge, relevant, and highly important there. If we come back to the assignment catalog, we have ones that do process mining, so they analyze the process in different ways. We do sales analysis with different data visualization. We have, let's try to see over here, other data analytics. Most of these are around technologies. We do a drones case where they learn about auditing with drones, and then they have to do an adjusting entry. Scott Emmett uses these at ASU. When he introduced them, the students absolutely loved them. His scores went up, and they said, we loved how practice relevant this was, and we could see why accounting was important. So rather than just a lot of the generic kind of, oh, here's debits and credits, it puts a little bit of spice into that to say, hey, you're learning these debits and credits, so when you get into the program, we can teach you all these cool skills that you'll then be able to go out and do in practice. Okay. So that is a lot of the cases. I don't have enough time to go over everything here, but here it is for you. Let me show you what it would look like from a student's perspective. From the faculty, you need to give them, let me go back to your assignment catalog or your dashboard. You give them this code and they copy that code. So you'd put in your learning management platform this code. The student would then come log in, and I'm using a student login now. Once they log in, they click the add course, add the code here. They click submit, put in their student ID, and add the course. Now you're going to see there's no courses in this one because I hadn't added any courses to it. If I come back over here and actually say the assignment, let me add just database anomalies. I add it to my course. I can choose how many times they take the quiz, feedback, all of those typical things. I say when it's due, I add it to the course. Now when the student refreshes their screen, bam, there it is. They're ready to start doing it. Once the students have completed it, just to briefly show you, let me show you one where students have completed it. You can come in and see their scores, how they did. You can review how they actually did on the quiz questions. And then you can download the grades. It will download a CSV file because it has that identifier. You then quickly upload it to Canvas or Blackboard, and they have all the scores embedded into their learning management system. Eventually, we'd love to build that so that it's all there. We'll see if we can get there with what we're doing. All right. Okay, so that's the stuff that's on there. I want to show you the other cool stuff we're building. So I'd always said, I want a lot more experiential learning, and I want to do VR. I thought it would be really cool. The problem with VR is that headsets are really expensive. So I said, what if we did something like Unto VR? So one of the cases we're going to release in the next couple weeks that will be ready for next semester, winter, spring semester, is an inventory case. In this inventory case, the students are actually going to do an audit of inventory. They're going to have to go into a warehouse and check to see if the laptops are there, if they've recorded them correctly, and do that sort of thing. So rather than VR, we built like a video game, like a first-person shooter game. So we're going to start.
Welcome to the Laser Laptop Warehouse. The inventory listing has been updated and finalized based on the client count. Your current assignment is to complete audit procedure 17.7 by performing a sheet-to-floor test. Once you're done, come back to this position and follow the instructions to end the audit.
Now, this is going to be a little glitchy on your screen because I'm streaming through Zoom, but it is perfectly smooth. It's generated just like a full-on video game. And you can come in here and let's see. I want to see the first person to put in chat something with the high-value inventory. Do you notice any problems? Put it into chat if you notice any problems. Hint, it's right there what I'm looking at. Door's not locked. Exactly. There's a keypad and your high-value inventory. You can actually get into it. So we can start simulating that rather than just reading a textbook. They can go experience. We're going to have 2 cases posted. One where we'll change the manipulation. Another one, there's actually the code that's like written on a sticky note right here. But you can actually come in here and open up boxes and inspect what's in there. I will do, because of time, I'll just do one box. But I'm going to do a box that's on the top shelf. So I actually have to come over to the forklift operator and say, oh, forklift operator, I want you to go open up this particular box, and off he drives. We don't let the person move because we don't want him to get run over by the forklift. So you have to wait until he gets to where he's going to get the inventory. But now the inventory driver is driving that out. Now you might be like, oh, this is kind of slow and boring. Well, that's what it's really like. This is December 31st or January 1st when you do these inventory counts. And you have to sit and wait for this guy. And we've actually programmed him. He might be a little sassy. Sometimes he'll pull the wrong box down and he'll be like, hey, just count this one. It's December 31st. I'm missing the big game, or I'm missing dinner with my family. Can't you just count this one or switch? So we can start talking about ethics. And it's real because at least now it's a person saying, oh, you shouldn't just do this. But here's a guy talking about, hey, I'm missing the game with my family, and try to make it more real. So we can embed lots of cool new things in teaching that will give the students a lot more serious and significant experience. Also, it is a little bit frustrating. You start talking about fraud. Do you see why you have to wait that long? Why you might just want to count all the boxes here and not do a random sample? We'll come over here. He opens up the box. And then I can actually pick which box. I'm going to open that one. It will open it up, and then they have to go through and actually look at each laptop. It opens it up, and they have to check to see, does it work? And the screen's either going to be cracked, or there'll be a blue screen of death, or there'll be a normal screen that works. And it gets a little slow, so I'm going to stop it right here. But that gives you an idea of what they're going to do. Now, the rest of the case is going to have things where they actually have to use all that information, fill out the work papers, and see if they do it right. So we're trying to say we don't want the entertainment to take place of the education. Education is first, then we make it awesome and fun and cool. We're really excited to roll this out to see what students think. Okay, so that's that one. I'll exit out of that. So we have, if I go back to it, we have 17 cases. I will say we tested this with 2,000 interns at EY. They rated these trainings better than anything else they've done, including listening to me as a professor, which kind of hurt my feelings, but I guess I'm a big boy, I can deal with it. So they preferred this over anything. The interviewing, there's a lot of research out there showing people like to interview people at the same level. So somebody the same age or same level in the organization, they start to get real nervous when they have to interview somebody like the CEO or somebody who's old or intimidating. After just doing 2 of these trainings, we significantly reduced anxiety. Just with 2 trainings and practicing it, they're giving them some experience. So not only are these trainings valuable to help get them interactive and they're interesting, but they're actually going to make a difference in what they're learning and improving it. All right, so I want to just do a quick poll question before we transition a little bit. What do you think? I showed really quickly a lot of stuff. How likely are you to use this? Absolutely. Maybe you want to learn more. Maybe not. Heavens no. Give me something far better. And I will say, if you answer no, that's just fine. If you do answer no, send me an email and tell me why, because we want this platform to be valuable for you. We have got another, while we're just finishing that poll question. Oh no, what happened to my slide? Oh, I don't have all the other ones. I'll talk through, oh, here it is. It got hidden. We have a bunch of other trainings. So let's pull up the poll results and then I'll talk to you about what else is going to be created. Now is the moment of truth. All right, a lot of people want to learn more. Very good. Sign on to eyarc.site. Then you can go look at it and check this stuff out. We will be doing another webinar by EY. Sign up to those webinars and we'll walk through a whole bunch of stuff more. Let me show you the rest of the stuff that we'll be doing, because there is a stuff that's not relevant. We don't have stuff for every class. We will, in the next week or two, we're going to have Gen AI 2, Gen AI governance, Gen AI ethics, and a deepfakes case. All of those will be released, teaching a lot about Gen AI. That's the most popular thing we have right now on the platform. I showed you the interviewing for auditing. We have 2 more tax inquiry cases that are going to be released. We're starting to work on some managerial cases, soft skills, on how to do other things like present and those sort of things. We're building all of this stuff out. Thankfully, EY keeps funding us. Biggest enrollment is intro financial. What cases do you recommend the most? All of those mini cases, Julie, those were developed specifically for intro financial courses. We also have a cool one we're trying to build that's like a Shark Tank culminating intro financial course where they'll actually present in front of the sharks or be the sharks and have to do some exchange and understand financial statements that they've talked about for the whole class. So we've got about 10 more cases that we hope to release before the end of this year that will be ready for next semester. And then next year, we're hoping to produce 25 to 30 more. So lots of interesting ones out there. And we've got the Gen AI governance one is an escape room type thing. Gen AI ethics, they actually have a debate. And so there's a discussion. Deepfakes, they actually see what real deepfakes look like. You saw the video game. So we're trying to push the envelope on all of these different things. I will tell you, we released this platform 2 weeks before the start of the semester. We have about 700 faculty signed up. 130 or so have actually assigned a course for the semester. Right before the semester was a bad time, but we've had about 3,200 students use it. Over 10,000 completed quizzes, and we haven't had really any glitches. A few minor ones at the beginning we fixed, but it's running really smoothly. We're hoping to scale that up. I would love to see, over 10,000 students using it next semester, if not 50,000. When do I think the Gen AI trainings will be ready? Oh, that's a good one. I was hoping by the end of October. It will probably be the first week of November. So ping me on that one. We might be able to give you, Anne, a trial version just to give us some feedback on that, but we can see about that. So ping me on that one. All right. I will say all of this stuff is free, again, for students. If you're at a nonprofit higher institute of higher education, that's the rules from EY. I will just put this out there. EY has given us permission to use the code to build a new platform for professionals. If you want to advertise this to professionals, we have made a commercial version with slightly different contents that's catered to professionals, but uses the same cool stuff. Skillabyte, I'm going to see if I can be an entrepreneur. All right, that is all on the EY Arc experience. I want to go over a little bit of Gen AI. So if you have questions about Gen AI or other things about teaching it, put them in. I'll answer those. If not, I will just keep demonstrating some cool new things that are out there. Okay, I showed you Claude and the artifact window. Okay, so that's where it made this cool thing over here and started writing stuff over there. Let me show you ChatGPT released something similar. If you have the paid version, you can come up here to ChatGPT with Canvas. I use this to save a ton of time as faculty. For example, I will come and say, write a letter of recommendation for Dave Ward to be admitted to the program at UT Austin. He's a good student, smart, talented, very nice, but doesn't participate much in class. So what I love about Canvas is it will immediately draft this recommendation. But now what I can do is I can come over here and, oh, I actually don't want it to be Dave. I want it to be David Ward. And I can change that UT Austin, and I can select this and say, make this more positive and make up an example of something he did. That was cool. Now, for a real student, what I would do is I would drop their resume, their transcript, and then bullet points of things I wanted to talk about. And I would say, that's awesome. Now I just generated over here. It's also got pre-canned stuff. So I could say, hey, I actually just want to adjust the length. I'm going to make this a lot longer. And it will rewrite it immediately for me longer. And so now I've got, Dave is not just academically capable, he's also incredibly kind, thoughtful, supportive individual. Dave's the one I think invited me onto the show, so I'm being really nice to him. Or I can say in here, actually, because it's UT Austin, since they lost the football game, I'm going to say, let's make it a kindergarten level. And so I'm going to simplify the game case so that they can understand. I'm happy to tell you about Dave. Dave is a great kid. He was in my class. He is very smart and works hard. Or I can change it to say, hey, he's actually trying to go into the PhD. So I'm going to actually add a whole bunch of emojis because nothing says awesome like a lot of emojis in a letter of recommendation. And you can start playing with it and do that sort of thing. But you can interact immediately and work with it. This has been a game changer. I have created with students the Tech Hub training website. I'll put that link in here. This is a whole bunch of free challenges to teach people about technology. So you can come in here and click a challenge, and you can say, hey, I want to see all the challenges that use Excel. We have posted like 50 challenges that use Excel. You can click on one of these, and you can actually assign students to do it as is. Here's an overview, instructions, there's data sets, and then there's videos that walk them through how to do all of it. Well, if they Google that, they could find it. So what I could do is I can come in here and say, ChatGPT, let me open a new window, rewrite this so it has the exact same answer, but a student couldn't Google and find it. I paste that in there, and it's just going to edit the wording slightly. So that scenario will work, and I just changed the name. Now it's Cheese Tax Services. It changed a little bit of stuff, but I could use the exact same data sets. And then when I'm done, I could say, hey, we just changed the name. Here's the real sample. I use this in my class. I actually tell students, hey, for your homework, I teach data analytics. You're required to go do 3 challenges and post your score. And then it actually posts a whole portfolio. If you click on the person, you can see everything they've posted, so they can give this link to a recruiters to say, hey, I know how to do Alteryx. I've done 37 challenges. We have thousands of people who've used this. It's been really cool. We've got over 260 challenges that you can work with, and beg, borrow, and steal. If you do use this, I do just ask at some point, have the students go see the actual website so they can use it when they finish. Okay, what's the registration process for Gen AI training? Will an email be sent with the details? I'm not sure I followed the registration for the training. You're going to have to put a little bit more. I don't understand the question, so put a little bit more in there what you're asking there, Gurpreet. I don't see it. Jen Zhang, do you have a case for intro managerial? We do not yet have managerial. That's on our list. We're trying to get to managerial. We're thinking of building some type of simulation where there's actually a manufacturing plant, and then they can tweak it and play with it so that we can see variances go up and down and interact with humans and a number of things. So we're still on the whiteboard of building that. I don't think we'll have it for next semester, but by next fall, we will certainly have materials for intro managerial and intermediate managerial. Okay, good. I've got more questions. I do want to hear any other questions, and do please put them just in the chat, then I can follow along on those. If not, I'll keep talking because I'm a professor and I like to talk and I have the mic. Okay, so this ChatGPT Canvas has been awesome to work with. It's really, really cool. The next thing you should be aware of is, if I go back, let me just open a new screen. There's GPT-4o model, there's Canvas, there are new reasoning models. If you haven't played with these are really, really cool. So I'm going to click on O1 Preview. This is the most advanced model. What it does is, rather than just quickly generating an answer, the AI pauses and thinks, what should I do for this answer? Prioritizes and creates what's called chain of thought prompting, and then does it. So now watch, I want to say, create a detailed business plan, business projection for Skillabyte. The company sells CPE credit to accounting that is cutting edge, doing stuff like Gen AI for learning. I want a full SWOT analysis and projections for earnings. And you'll notice the first thing is it takes longer. So first thing you'll see that it's thinking. And in thinking, it actually comes in and tells you what it's thinking about. It's forecasting Skillabyte's growth, laying out the business plan, responding to industry change. And it's doing all of these steps behind the scenes as the AI, mapping out the market, navigating sections, evaluating strengths. All of this is just thinking. And then when it gets done with all of this, it's breaking down the process. It will then start writing. So it took 20 seconds to think before it produced an answer, and then it'll give you a much more detailed answer. So now I have a full executive summary, and that comes into market analysis. Here's the industry. Global CPE is substantial with millions of accountants worldwide needing CPE. Here's adoption, online learning, target audience, primary, secondary, geographical focus, product service offerings, market and sales strategy, operational plan, financial projections. Woohoo! I'm going to have some really nice years. I love what this is projecting. 600,000 in revenue, expenses 200,000 year 2, blah, blah, blah. Here's my SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. There's a conclusion. So now this is a new reasoning model. Let me show you, I didn't plan to present this, but let me show you how transformative this is. I just gave a presentation to 25 accounting managing partners yesterday down in Florida. Let me show you what I showed them. We have a research project where we saw how good are these AI models. So the first thing we did is we had interns do a fraud risk assessment. We gave them 3 pages of information, generate the fraud risks. And I'll show you total quantity, but quality is the exact same relationship. When a novice did it, they came up with 3 ideas. When we gave them AI, they doubled their performance. So just giving them AI, they did a lot better fraud risk assessment. We then went to professionals. These were professionals with an average of 13 years of experience. They outperformed interns. However, an intern with AI outperformed a 13-year professional on doing a fraud risk assessment. The professional with AI still outperformed both of them. So great, professionals are awesome, give them AI. The question we then asked is, what happens if we get rid of the human and just use the AI? So we went to a Big 10 accounting firm and had their AI group do a bunch of prompt engineering. They spent a week, and after all of this sophisticated prompting, they said, basically the question we said is, ChatGPT, do a fraud risk assessment based on this information. I'm not kidding. It's about that simple of prompt, and it outperformed humans. AI, when you didn't have a human, outperformed humans with AI. Then we went to the reasoning models. We did the same thing. And from where humans currently are, getting 5 risk factors, we tripled their performance on identifying important fraud risk factors for an organization. So AI is absolutely transformative in its abilities. As educators, I hope we are at the forefront of using this. There's my email. We have one more poll, I think. I want to see what you think. Is this going to strengthen education or not? And while you're filling out that poll, I'm going to just talk and give my dialogue. I now use AI. I tell students on day 2, you should be using for AI on every single thing in this class that you can, unless I tell you not to. And if I tell you not to, you need to ask me why not. And I will give them the reason, because there are good reasons not to use it. And I've separated my class into 2 pieces. Here's the stuff you must memorize and to be a professional. You have to stand in front of somebody and be able to say. That's traditional learning. That's book learning. That's memorization, closed note tests. This other side is the stuff you have to be able to do. You need to be able to use Excel. You need to be able to use soft skills. You need to be able to use AI. This side of what you have to do is growing, and my expectation is increasing dramatically. Use AI on all of this stuff as much as possible. Most of you are positive. That's why you signed up for the webinar. All the people who don't think it's going to matter didn't come to the webinar. But that framing has helped students. They're like, oh, I need to memorize this because I'm a professional, and they'll work harder on that. And then on do, they have a lot more fun. So on many of my assignments, the last question now is something like, given everything we just did, you need to come up with a good question and solve it. Or come up with something to add value. Or think of a unique way you could have done this differently. And I expect them to work on it. In the beginning of class, I'll call on them. Hey, somebody tell me what you did for that last problem. Somebody else tell me what you did. And it's less about grading, but it's more about getting them to think about, how do I generate, create, innovate, and invent, because those are the skills that are going to be valuable. AI is absolutely going to transform our industry, and it's going to happen a lot faster than any of us think. There are billions of dollars being poured into this. I can't tell you how many startups I'm talking with that are inventing incredible products to do. So with that, I think as educators, hopefully we're on the cutting edge and right there playing with it. Okay, so I'm going to open up for any other questions on that. Give you just one more minute to put in a question, or else I will just pontificate more. While I'm waiting for that question, I will go ahead and pontificate a bit more. Other ways that I use it to get help. How do you address bias in AI? Okay, good. The easiest way to address bias in AI is to say, change your prompt. For example, let's do an example up here of live of doing that. Where did my mouse go? So images are easy to show bias. Make an image of an accountant. Okay, now when we have to talk about bias, we need a little bit more sophisticated study with the students, because they're going to say, oh, I'm sorry, I got to stop that. I don't want to do that. I need to change my model. Make an image of an accountant. We've trained students to understand that AI is, sorry, someone else put a question, changed my thought. AI is trained on all of this information, so it's going to represent an average. So if all of the documents in the world describe an accountant typically as male, you're typically going to get a male image. Now, is that bias, or is that just, this is what the document is trained on? If I trained it on all women, it would only give me a woman. So it's giving me back what I've trained it on. So we talk about bias and say models can have biases, or they can be influenced by the training data. So you have to be aware of that. But the key is, you can be, these large language models, we can change it. I can actually say, if I want not to have bias, state that you don't want it. Make an image of a woman accountant. So the easiest way to deal with bias is to start training them to prompt for what they want. And that's the quickest way. That will now give me an image. There's a woman accountant. Now, someone might say, well, it's biased because it's young, because it's old. Well, really, is this bias, or is it just I didn't give it a good prompt? What I try to talk to with my students about bias is, Yes, it can be biased, but a lot of it needs to be you fixing what you want. If you want a senior, older, Black person with Asian ancestry, whatever you want, you can describe that and it can produce it. Or I want somebody who looks like this. So when I talk about bias, I say, what we need to think about is how can you get rid of bias by how you prompt to update it. All right. So that one's one I deal with bias. It is a good one to deal, and it is good whenever you generate something, say, hey, how might we want to do this so it's more inclusive? And then you can ask them to change it. You can now in ChatGPT, let me open this, with images, you can come in and edit a direct image or just part of an image. And I'm going to say, make this an abacus. Or you could select the head and make it a woman, or change their ethnicity, or those types of things. I just picked the laptop, but you can highlight just a piece of the picture and change just that piece of the picture. I will say the other cool things that are coming out, and there's an abacus. And notice the hands, sometimes they're getting better, but hands are still a little bit messed up. But now I have an abacus in there. As far as other cool new things that are coming out, Claude has released something really cool. I will give you a link to a video that you should watch on your own.
So I'm Sam.
If you think this isn't big, watch this video. What Claude has done is they now give the AI the ability to take over your computer and run anything on your computer. And so I can put in a prompt and it can actually click on websites. It can go through and search for information, fill out forms, and do all of that. It's not great yet, but this is the first iteration. And the thing you have to remember with AI is it is doubling in its abilities every 8 months. Okay? Every 8 months. And all that stuff I showed you in experience, when a new model comes out and I need the new model to do the AI, I change one line of code and it just increased its intelligence. So this thing is changing so fast, so much fun to be part of, so many cool things that you can do. I just put the link. You can watch that one and then Google a few other videos to see what Anthropic. The latest rumor coming out today is that OpenAI is going to release their next new model before December. And it may be ChatGPT 5. And so we'll see what the next big iteration is. But with that, you got my email on the screen. If you have any questions, if you want to talk about this, if you need help with experience, if you have ideas, please shoot me an email. I love to hear from you. We just want to make this as valuable as we can for the profession. But thank you all so much for tuning in and hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.